What is going on, my friends? My name is Parker Andriese, DJ of 10 years and host of Behind the Energy podcast. I've been able to meet some pretty awesome people along the way, and we're bringing them on here to go behind the energy, sharing their stories, lessons learned, and shine light on some of their major milestones. If you're into DJing, the event industry, or entrepreneurship, I think you'll dig the show. I really appreciate you being here with me. Now that we've set the table, it's time to jump right in and get started with today's episode. We are alive and well on Behind the Energy podcast, back again. Coming to you live. We're in Midvale.
Murray.
We're in Murray. I always get that two mixed up. I'm just going to jump into it. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate yourself on the clout game?
Clout?
Yes.
You said 1 to 10. You didn't add negatives. I don't know if I can be on this scale you're talking about.
You just answer the question.
But that's what I'm saying. I probably in the negative range.
Christopher, just answer the question.
3.
Oh, bro.
Clout gain. I ain't about clout.
We're going to brush beyond that one. Welcome to the show, listeners. That's a topic that we can dive into a little bit later.
Yeah, interesting.
Chris, what's up, dude?
Dude, what's up? We've been checking out the studio we got here. I'm real confused. We're a little more humor than I knew about.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is part 2 of Lost and Found.
Picking up where we ended with John.
Yes. If you didn't listen to the previous episode, first off, I don't know why you didn't, but second off,
yeah, go listen.
I would want to encourage you to go listen to episode 54 with my boy John, because that's going to paint a more clear picture in terms of what we're going to talk about now with part 2 of Lost and Found and part 2 of the journey of this dual partnership that we've got here. We kind of just jumped right into it. Before we started recording this podcast that we're like doing right now. We were talking about like particular topics that I'm very passionate about, or have strong feelings about.
Yeah, indeed.
And clout's one of them.
I believe that. I think I missed that.
Why do you laugh, John?
I see it. I see it.
Do you want to come back on the mic?
Oh shit! Okay.
Go listen to the last episode.
Wait. How would you rate yourself? How would you rate? Yeah, 1 to 10 in the mic, bro.
Clout scale 1 to 10. I don't know. I feel right now. It changes on a daily basis.
I feel like.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Checking out a good 9.2.
Yeah, that's a good 9 point. Dang,
man, we're using
if I'm a 9.2, look at this chain.
So is that what it is? I started thinking.
Look at this episode.
You got chains.
Hella chain.
Hella chains. Oh, holy shit.
Okay, you're in timeout. You're in timeout.
Timeout.
All right, we're off to an
I'm gonna
excellent.
be peeking over there. I'm sorry.
Okay, wait. We're off to an excellent start.
Goodness, a strange one, but it's okay. I'm excited.
What was the name of the podcast though? Was it Bringing the Energy podcast?
Yeah, it's Bringing the Energy podcast. Behind the Energy podcast. Do you need a reminder now? John did.
Okay. I'm gonna explain this one more time.
I know it.
For the sake of my sanity.
For the sake of the
I'm also
brand.
gonna set a timer. So
Let's do it.
Nick.
Dude, if it felt fast for John, if
cause any more ripples.
If you felt like you had to fit John into 40 minutes, dude, I'm another beast, dude.
We might as well just jump into it. Scratch that. We're gonna jump into it.
This is gonna be 3 hours.
Okay.
You won't even know it though by the end.
I got a few notes here to my friends just so I can keep organized and be a little bit more intentional with this conversation rather than ramble like I did for the past 5 minutes. So, Chris, one more time, pronounce your last name for me and the listeners and the viewers.
Yeah, I'm Chris Spadafora.
Spadafora. Will you spell that for the listeners?
Spadafora. I'm gonna dox myself on the first podcast.
Also known as.
He saw that pause. I just needed to let him process.
Oh my God.
It's real, not so complicated.
We're recording a podcast over here.
Hey, yo.
Also known as DJ Fora on the wheels of steel, ladies and gentlemen. You're a current, Fora. Thank you. Current student at U of U studying audio engineering. And when's the graduation?
Too far away. That's
away.
all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
No,
Godspeed.
it's I probably got another 4 semesters.
Oh, bro, that's not long at all.
Yeah, it just has been a long journey, right? I've been going to school
Yeah.
since 2017. I did take about a year and a half off. Back then, it wasn't for audio engineering, but doing what you love and doing it unapologetically really has been something that, even though it's far out, like I could do it forever. Like I love this. I love learning. I love being, in front of people and with people that have a goal that I care about. So yeah, I mean, it feels forever, but it's also like I love being part of school. I'm the vice president of the audio club at UVU.
Okay.
So I tease, I say like feels like forever when I'll graduate. But truth of the matter is like I don't really care because I love doing it.
You're in your lane. I mean, yes, you would be able to put more of your time and energy and love towards like the direct field and the creative work and the output if you weren't in class.
Yeah, exactly.
But still the same similar lane. If you will, atmosphere.
And like luckily, the audio program at UVU is the smallest at UVU by far. Like
the smallest program they offer?
The smallest program they offer by a lot. There's only like 200 kids total all through all 4 years.
Oh, so you know just about everyone. So yeah, familiar faces.
Yeah, you get to know everybody. And I personally, because of the way that I did school before and then came back, I'm a weird place where I know, like I'm in classes with some of the younger kids and I'm in classes with a lot of the older kids. Okay. So I do like know everybody in the program. And I don't know, it's been a really good time to help the program grow, to get to introduce people to that. And like, there's a lot of opportunity that people don't really realize. UVU is the only school, the only university that teaches this program in like any surrounding states.
Really?
Yeah. It's definitely in Utah. Like you can find like other like specific more like certificate-based colleges, or like they're not going to do your generals. They're not going to. But this is a university. We're the only program like this,
and a bachelor's.
Gets a bachelor's in. It technically it's called digital audio, but or technically it's a digital media with an emphasis in audio. But you know what I mean? Like it's the only one that like it is, and so our students, co-students of mine are competing at the top levels of the country in audio engineering. Things like that, and it's been pretty cool to be pretty involved in the process of it all, and I love it.
This is a long shot, but did you ever know Braden Flint, DJ BZ?
We've talked about him. I'm sure him and his paths have crossed, but it's not like a homie of mine. Okay, sure.
I'm gonna put a pin in that. We'll talk about
if he's listening. Hit me up.
BZ, I love you. If you happen to be listening to this. Another thing I do want to mention before we continue the conversation, I wrote down in my notes in just like the intro as well in bolded red, Mr. Steal Yo dignity on the dance floor with his dance moves.
Hey, yo.
I saw this man literally like do a Christ air and then land in the splits on the rooftop at Sky, and I about shit myself.
Dude, that was a good.
He can do that without even warming up. Like it was, I was concerned for you, but you were going, bro.
So it's funny you bring dance up.
Where did you guys get it?
It's funny that you bring dance up because I didn't feel like you guys touched enough on this with the first part, but that's where all this started for John and I. Like all of this, it was started in dance, and I mean, getting a little cheesy with it, but that could go back to like my childhood. Like I didn't
take us back, please. Like seriously.
Like I've always like when I was young, it was like I liked moving, I liked dancing. I was an energetic kid, and I never had a lot of opportunity to do such through most of my elementary and middle school experience. I was in a charter school, and I was like, my mom had been in things like choir and drama and stuff. So like naturally, being the oldest of her kids, I was in that stuff too through like middle school and stuff. Getting to high school, and now I'm going to public school. There's opportunities everywhere, and I started doing like ballroom dance, and then I met some friends like John that did like hip hop dance and stuff, and I was like, wait, I love this way more. And I guess, and throwing that back, I started break dancing in like 8th grade. And is
that teaching yourself YouTube?
So the BYU breakdance club.
Let's go.
So I don't know if you've ever knew that's a thing, but it's actually like pretty big.
Anytime I hear BYU or Provo come up, I'm just like, get away from me.
Yeah, that's an often natural reaction. I think, man, that I could connect that a lot to like what Lost and Found is about as well. Maybe we'll get back into that, but
we're gonna put a pin in that too.
You're
gonna remind us, John. Okay.
Yeah, because that's pretty important to me. But So I was breakdancing starting in 8th grade with a good friend of mine. His dad was like part of a breakdance crew, and through breakdancing, I got a lot of exposure to hip hop and not like rap. Like I used to think, and being raised in very conservative experience, like lifestyles, I used to think rap was kind of dumb. Like I didn't understand rap at all, and I didn't ever distinguish between rap and hip hop. When I started to breakdance, I listened to a lot of like old, 70s like Run DMC, like 80s hip hop, and I still didn't. I went from not distinguishing at all to like not even thinking they were the same thing. Like I was all about hip hop, but I thought rap sucked. Which is like, what is going on? What are you talking about? But now I like know my stuff. But we like would learn, like we would like study with his dad, like the 4 elements of hip hop, like MCing, DJing, breakdancing, and graffiti. And dude, if I messed that up, like, look, I messed it up. I'm a white kid. Like this is years ago. Like me with these guys that know their stuff, been breakdancing for a long time, but it mattered to them. It was like a culture. Yeah. That was my first exposure into all of like an alternative lifestyle that I had never experienced, and into hip hop, which led me to finding like the wave and into like electronic music through popping and locking. So all of everything that I do right now is because of dance. Like is because I was a dancer, and John and I became like, we were good friends. But
what was the day you guys met? Sorry,
dude. He knows the story way better. I don't know. Like he met me. I didn't meet him. Like I was just a stupid kid, like way too ADHD to focus on anybody, and he hated my guts. Tell me if I'm wrong, but because I was dating the girl he liked.
Got it.
But now he's married to that girl.
We could end the podcast
right there, dude. Wow. It's pretty nuts, right? It's pretty nuts.
Wow.
So yeah. So
wow.
So yeah, I was, wow. And so I think we met, like he was friends with all of her friends who I was introduced to because of her. And then, so for me, it was just like, oh yeah, this guy. And then like, because I was hanging out with them more, we were hanging out, and then we became more like better friends. But like, honestly, like usually there's like, oh yeah, we met and then like this happened. I actually don't like feel like that. I feel like there's 4 of us in our senior year of high school. We were on the hip hop dance team at Timpview High.
That's so dope.
And we were inseparable. Like the 4 of us always together. Every party, everything, we were always together. And even more than that, the 2 of us, John and I, since our senior year of high school, inseparable. And it's all because of dance. Wow. And so we would go to these parties because, we liked to party and we could dance. And when you're cool and you, like you said, I'll take it. I'll own the title. When I steal everybody's dignity, I'm also the guy that steals all the numbers.
Let's go.
Right? So we would go to parties and we would like straight up like, who gets the most numbers wins tonight.
Did you go to the XSI parties?
Dude, you think we're too cool. No, we would go to these like freaking steak dances.
Let's go, bro. The steak raves, bro.
Like we would go to steak dances. We would go to I don't remember what they were called. Like the tribe parties, but like early days, the tribe.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't know the. I remember this one. It was a New Year's party. I think you were there. You probably were there. You were always there. But there was this one that was in collaboration with the company that kind of started printing those like realistic pictures on like clothes. Like they sell those like bathing suits that like look like a chest, like women's bathing suits that like look like a hairy man. You guys seen those? Or like the fanny packs that look like a belly.
The time frame. I get
right?
what you're saying. Yeah.
So we're like what is this? Like 2014, 2015. Okay. Right. And so when that was like really, really popular, they like collabed with one of these brands and they did a big New Year's party. That was like, just give you like the image of kind of parties we're going to.
Yeah.
And then like John served at LDS Mission. I went to Japan and I was really blessed with like a lot of people, like one of my last areas, there was this kid that was way into EDM too, and like one item on my bucket list is to go to Ultra Japan with him because he told me we were going to, so go raving with him. So like,
I love
you
that.
don't hear a lot of missionaries coming home from their mission be like, yeah, I was talking about raving on my mission. It's people don't really get it, right? So like,
Yeah, I hear what
there's
you're saying.
this like expectation. Anyways, so I've always been a part of wanting that and like understand like knowing the culture different than a lot of people around me. You know, I don't know a lot. Like, I'm not saying like I understand rave culture and I'm part of that, but like it's because of dance and because of the experiences I do have, I have a lot of positive affirmation and a lot of positive bringing me back to that. And so I want to share that. I want others to experience it. And
There it is.
watching that happen through, you know, founding Lost and Found with John and bringing others into that, you know, business, but also just into the events. It's something that, you know, lights my fire more than anything else.
Love that.
I don't know. Where were we though?
Where were we in the
like,
conversation?
Yeah, because like I just went on a tangent. Sorry.
No, you're good. I'm very glad we went where we went. I do want to tack on to, or I want to tack onto this, and I also want to come back to your last point in terms of what you want to share with others. I think that's a whole topic that we could spend a whole episode talking about. But I wanted to add on, like I hear you in terms of like the culture of hip hop and rap and breakdancing and popping and locking, because something that was brought to light to me in another episode, I think back in season 1, when we had E-Rock on.
Oh yeah.
Skateboarding is
super huge too.
Something that introduced a lot of hip hop and rap culture to E-Rock, and that's quite literally how I got into hip hop and rap myself when I was in 5th, 6th, and 7th grade.
That's way sick. Okay.
And
that's perspective.
and so I can relate on that level. I'm not a great dancer by any means. You know, I got enough to like hang, but that's just about it. Chris, before we get to the topic of what you're wanting to share with others as an artist and as a collective with Lost and Found, I want to take a moment, maybe 3 or 5 minutes, to talk about at a very high level your experience getting into the world of DJing.
DJing specifically.
Yes, DJing.
Oh boy, my world. Like I talked about when I was younger, I'd seen these guys. So part of that, my very first like real experience with like true DJs, turntablists, was because of that group, the hip hop guys, right? At Muse Music in Provo back in the day. No longer exists, but it's on the same street as Velour. It's actually right next door to where we currently do our events, which is kind of like background, deeper ice of the Iceberg like experience for me. Like nobody really knows that, but I love that. But
I see.
Anyways, so at Muse Music, there was a turntablist battle, and we went there. It was a breakdance battle, so we went there to battle and dance, and then afterwards we saw 2 turntablists. I don't know who they were. I don't know if they're still around.
Did
I
they
don't
just
know
have
anything.
a bunch of decks lined up?
Well, yeah. So it's just like when they do turntable battles, right? You got the 2.
Left and right,
sets,
and then a crowd,
and then the crowd.
Okay,
right? So you just have their 2 decks, and it was incredible. I was like awestruck, and look, is this 14-year-old? Maybe not. No, way 14, probably 11 or 12-year-old kid.
Well, in Utah County too.
It just doesn't exist much, right?
That's dope. Yeah.
Yeah. So to see that, and like, I was so impressed because I've always been a musician. Well, I've always been learning something in music. I don't know if I can really say I'm a true musician, but for as long as I've been alive, I've been doing something in music, and to see how they, you know, for layman's terms, like remix, but it's not really that, but how they're cutting and scratching and mixing and choosing samples. And I was just taken back. I was like, this is incredible. I'm like, yeah.
Were you able to comprehend to an extent of like what was happening?
You know,
at that age?
It's probably filtered through what I know now, but I think at that age, at the very, very least, I was like, this is incredible.
This is sick.
but I do remember very vividly, like knowing when and why they switched a record. Not like necessarily why he did, but like, oh, he's switching a sample for the next thing. Like I get what's happening.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And yeah, I never did anything with that though. I never my family was definitely lower middle class, and asking for something like a DJ table, right? That's what I thought they were called at the time, right?
Yeah, and
I didn't even know controllers existed, right? So asking for anything like that was like it wasn't even a thought that occurred. I didn't even know I could do that, right?
Real quick, small pause.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of this show is centered around sharing experiences and maybe hopefully helping or educating someone on some things.
Yeah.
Can you take 30 seconds and explain the difference between a controller and turntables?
Yeah.
Like what that is?
Way good point. Absolutely. So controllers are MIDI-based piece of hardware that uses a communication cable between a computer and the controller to trigger software-based cues, to whether it be music or effect. You know this, right? And I would say where turntables is the hardware. You have two record players, you have vinyl records, and those are what you're going through a central analog mixer to an output of sound instead of using a computer to control that.
Excellent. That was even more detailed than I was looking for. I love it. The way I explain it is a controller is an all-in-one unit that is like an actual physical piece of equipment, and then you're doing a lot of communicating digitally. Whereas, working on turntables, you have a real turntable with a motor and vinyl, and I mean, we can expand on that, but we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
We're going to jump back to where you were at in the conversation. So maybe another 2-3 minutes.
I'll speed it up because I'm a man of many words, and I should be better, but I not should be. I can be. Thanks. That's a John thing. So,
I see you.
And anyways, so I didn't even think about that as a possibility. And then we were going to these parties, connecting it all together. Through the parties, we're like, we want to throw better parties that are being thrown, because we were literally being invited, with the upstairs crew and stuff, we were literally being invited to these college age parties, which we knew no one there except his brother. And they said, please just come and dance, because you guys make the party better. And I think that was the seed of affirmation that I won't speak for John, but that I needed for, like, I want to do this forever. Like, because I can get into the middle of a dance floor and change everyone's experience.
It's legit.
And it's so fun. And it's really interesting because it's like, I don't want to take too much time on this, but it's like this like selfish, but not selfish, like, loop cycle. Does that make sense? In order to succeed at that, I must not be selfish, but at the end of the day, I'm doing it so that I selfishly feel better. Or good, not better, like good. And so it's
It's a two-way
fulfilling, I mean. Yeah, it's a two-way street. It's a pretty interesting thought I have a lot. But anyways, so John got all this gear, and I was like, I want gear. But I was basically gifted for Christmas from my parents a tiny Newmark, like, no sound card in it.
Mixcloud Pro, what was it?
Probably one of those, like, maybe even less. We'll put it this way, the perfect starting point for me, right?
Yeah.
Because I was able to get
every DJ had that same controller.
Right, super, just bass level. And it was awesome. I would just sit in my room and just play with tracks and play with effects and see what I could make happen. And I don't know. That's how I got into DJing. And I think through my personal experience, the best kind of big step for me was these hip hop guys. It was called Pro Veracity, which has nothing to do with Provo. It's Pro Veracity, stands for pro truth. Veracity the meaning of veracity is to stand for truth. And so we were Pro Veracity.
Interesting.
And stupid name when you are based in Provo, Utah, but then it became Provo Ass City. That's what people would call us. Instead of Pro Veracity, it's Provo Ass City, which was pretty good, but I looking back, whatever. Anyways, but these guys, the main MC of the group was the older brother of a good friend of mine, and so they were looking for a new DJ, and they, through that connection, they hit me up, and I was like, I would love to chat. We sat down, and we started talking about hip hop music, and I knew a bunch of their favorite artists of, like, these 90s and, like, 2000s, like, underground, like, hip hop stuff. And they were like, yo, this is sick that you know all this stuff. It sounds like you're like ready to go. But I had this tiny turntable, right? I just had this tiny controller, and they're like, I don't know how that's going to work. They were all kind of like, I don't know how this is going to work, but we'll see. And I didn't realize this, but they left the conversation, like our first meeting, feeling like, yeah, maybe we'll hit him up. We're going to look at our options. I left that like, I'm doing this 100%. Like, I'm sending it. So I went and freaking spent a ton of money and bought turntables.
Legit
and then
turntables.
like real.
What was your mixer?
It's a base level Serato one, the MX2 or something, something like that. I can't remember what they're called.
I think I know what you're talking about.
So yeah, I had this tiny turntable, and I left the conversation feeling like I've got to do this. This is way cooler. And it felt for me, it felt like the culmination of all of the hobbies that I'd had. Hobbies being like a musician, break dancing,
art,
like
creativity,
creativity in general. I mean, I think ultimately, it could have been that. I didn't do a lot of any of that for Pro Veracity as far as like all of my artistic ability. Lost and Found is truly the culmination of all of my artistic endeavor, but we'll get to that in a second. I realize we're gonna go short, but anyways, bought these turntables, hit them back up, said, hey, I bought these turntables, and they went, oh, wait, you did what? And that was their sign. Oh, he's dedicated. And I started producing more seriously, released songs with them. We ultimately went on tour, so that was really sick. Went on tour through a couple of cities and into like Milwaukee in the Midwest.
And how old were you?
I mean, this is just a couple years ago. This was actually,
but still
2021. So just a year ago. So
okay.
Yeah, I guess what I was 23, 24. But yeah, I mean, it was just really, really quick from starting with them a year or two before that to, okay, we're big enough to be going on tour. And
wow,
you know, it's been really cool to experience that as a DJ, and a lot of DJs around me, and there's a lot, like, I don't actually think there's an oversaturation of DJs in Utah, but I've heard that been said. And just because I think it's just because we're all friends. Like, we're all chilling all the time. Like, there's so many DJs around, but like,
they all are. Really good point. Holy crap.
We're all really interested in like getting to know each other and like building a community. I don't think it's oversaturated. Maybe I'm just not in the right scenes, but I don't know. I think it's cool. People trying art and doing stuff, I think it's cool. At that point, competition can be healthy. But
that's a great way of looking at it.
All the DJs were kind of doing a thing, and I didn't really want to do that thing because of my pride. Yeah. And so this hip hop thing was a perfect example to do something they weren't doing. And at that time, I didn't know who you were. I didn't know I didn't know that Brandon Estrada was doing like turntablism. Like, I didn't know all these guys out here. And I just was like, oh, I'm going to be pretty much the only one doing this in Utah. Quickly found out I was wrong, and that's really sick that I was wrong, because there's an actual healthy amount of DJs doing turntablism here. Mm-hmm. But
there's some incredible talent.
Yeah, it's really incredible.
In Utah, yeah.
And I've learned a lot from a lot of these guys. But at first, it was me just saying, like, I'm going to do something that's completely unique to me, and I want to, you know, John mentioned in his part, like, people want to be different. And I really did. And it was really fulfilling, though. It was really validating. I learned a lot of actual skill. It went from me DJing in my bedroom and like thinking I'm cool and like clicking the sync button to like knowing what the cuss I'm doing. And and that was dedicated hours and hours of crossfader work, and yeah, it's cool to be there now. And I don't do that as much anymore with Lost and Found, but one thing that's connected to with Lost and Found is that we've taken inspiration from the Boiler Room company. Uh-huh. Often I think the Boiler Room gets that people think that's just a word or a type of show. It's not. That's a company. Go listen to their sets. Go look up Boiler Room. They're amazing. They're amazing. Taking a lot of inspiration with them, specifically in the way that we say that we're genre agnostic. We obviously are based in a lot of electronic music. Yes. But that's just because electronic music is freaking sick at raves. It's like, people want to dance, people want to go off. Yeah. It's like, but we're not like, this is what you have to play. And we're looking, you know, in booking DJs through our next few shows, we really are looking to get a wider variety of sounds and of experiences where sets aren't just go hard, but we're getting a variety and a lot of openers that are not necessarily openers because they're new or young or inexperienced or whatever, but they're openers because they want to play a set that's a little different. So
I had something I want to throw in there. Are you familiar with the term plur?
Yeah, very.
Okay,
Yeah.
dope. Peace, love, unity, and respect. It's something that's done.
Yeah, it's a
and enacted, and it's
rave
quite literally a
culture.
culture within the electronic community. I feel like there's a big component of that is lived in terms of how Lost and Found lives.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
That's a huge compliment, and it really does make sense. So we don't use that term,
but the essence of it.
but there is a lot of plur in the values of Lost and Found. 100%. Plur it's unfortunately, a lot of people's first experience with plur is just changing bracelets.
Yeah.
I don't absolutely, like, I don't hate that. Like, I love the whole candy culture, but there's a lot of, it happens with everything. When there's more and more people introduced to an experience, the experience plays a telephone game, and the same thing happens when we were in elementary school, where one person says that and you go around the room at the end of the telephone game. You know what I'm talking about? The end of the first sentence is not the last sentence. The same thing happens with experiences. And all these people are trying to teach these new people that are coming to raves. Raves, going to like festivals and things is no longer niche. It's mainstream, very mainstream right now.
Yeah, but I still think the plur culture is very much alive and well.
The plur culture is alive. It's changed. There's a lot of, and the experience from what I had initially with plur to what I hear people talking about with plur, I'm in like forums and whatnot is what I'm talking about. It's changed, and it's that, that changing, if you will, like that telephone game of experience has definitely happened, where there's a lot more people being introduced to this culture faster. And look, Lost and Found is part of that. I want that. That can happen. But we definitely want to build the culture of Lost and Found where people are expected and expect to be respected and loved, and the culture is the community, and the community is the culture. At Lost and Found, we have 3 C's. We call them the 3 pillars of Lost and Found. It's culture, creation, community.
Wow.
And
how many event companies at this age are, have pillars like that, have that guidance, have that?
It is the values. Yeah, we do things.
That's awesome.
And,
creativity,
go ahead. Culture, creation, community.
Creation, community. Okay.
Yeah.
Community.
We were gonna. One of the things was creativity, right? Like it's an easier word to remember and to think about.
That word comes to mind when I think of you guys, like straight up.
Thank you. We were being creative since the day one of Lost and Found. Come switch a shirt. No, I forgot all about that. When you were talking about that in part 1, I was like, oh my goodness, this is a deep cut. Like I forgot all about that.
Sorry, Chris. Let's get this topic come full circle, because I want to drill you with a few more thoughts. Questions before we bring the episode to a close, brother.
Yeah. Which thought? No, but yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, like, with Lost and Found and stuff, it is big for us that we have a culture that is plur, but because our shows are a little different, there's not a lot of like stereotypical plur image that is applied. Does that make sense? You think of candy, you think of I think bright color ravers, and it really is. You think of binkies, and right.
That's at the surface level, like
that's what I'm saying.
That's the first show or 3 shows you've been introduced to it, but
100%.
When I went to my first show when I was 16, 11 years ago, like I've actually come to understand that this is a very real lived culture and way of not only conducting yourself, but like communicating and looking out for others.
I love it. 100%. 100%.
Sorry, continue.
No, and that's, I've definitely experienced that, and I definitely am, I definitely love that. I just feel that a lot of people's experience with festivals and raves is only those first 3. Yeah. Right. And those first 3 can be spread out between 10 years.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you get very, very little snippets of what the culture could be. And those aren't always positive experiences. It's just life.
True.
It's not bad or good or whatever. It's just existence. Yeah. And in building our brand, that's just not a term we've decided to use, but in the brand itself, it is 100% something that I support, use, and am a part of. If that makes sense. I don't know. I went too deep into that a little bit.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So again, I don't want to ask you similar questions or topics that we talked about with John.
Yeah.
In terms of Lost and Found, again, you can go back to the previous episode to get the full context there. Chris, perhaps you could talk about something that you're most excited about for this next chapter, this next year with Lost and Found, or perhaps something that you're very proud of in terms of Lost and Found and what you and John have created together with the community that you've continued to build.
100%. So with John, you heard about how it started. It started with the last Hail Mary. It was...
Oh, hold on. I want to ask you, were you going to take no for an answer on that last event?
I mean, was it even a last event? I never saw it as a last event, so maybe that's
okay. No. There. So no, you weren't.
No, I didn't even know. That's the first time I've ever thought that no could have been an answer. Genuinely, the no was never an.
This guy right here, I love it.
No wasn't even an option. Like,
that's dope.
Not because he didn't have agency, not because I didn't have agency, but because I felt the passion, I saw the vision. And I knew John did. And so when he was like, maybe we're done, I said, maybe we didn't start. And we're done being what we are right now. Yeah, we're done being that. But what else are we what else are we going to be? What are we really? Who are we as DJs? Because being done, the truth of the matter is, for that experience, what we experienced that night, that day of the stinking high school show, we put way too much time and money into for what they got. Like, we're not that. We were done. John is right. He hung up that hat. We were done being that, but we started to be so much more. And
that's powerful.
And we made that decision, and that's all life is a series of decisions. Yeah, so it started with that. You heard his story. And so to be honest, something I'm really proud of is that we're still here. Something I'm really proud of is that, and I'm really grateful for it. I think that's the best way. Gratitude's interesting and feeling grateful for these things is kind of interesting because I'm never satisfied, but I'm always grateful. And I think that's really, really healthy to incorporate in a lifestyle, in something that you care about. Because honestly, like the shows that we've done, none of the shows that we've done have been everything I wanted. The last show we did, I played a set, probably the best set I've ever played. I started with like 20 minutes of straight up drum and bass, and people went absolutely nuts. Go check on the Instagram. Go check the recent reel on our Instagram. You'll see the very beginning, the very first drop of my set. We bring a strobe out. People go absolutely nuts. I was on cloud 9, and I'm still, there's so many, I listen back to that set and I'm like, man, I'm so bad at DJing. Like, not really. Like, I'm proud of what I am, but I'm like, I see things I can fix, right? So this is always what happens with being creative, is you have something that you love and you want to be the best. You want to be perfect at it, but you can't be. You can't be. We're humans. You'll never be perfect. But you can be grateful for what you are and also want more. And that's kind of what healed my negative attitude and need for extrinsic validation, right? So one thing that we've experienced with Lost and Found is that, at first we were like, okay, we need people to be there. We want all this like extrinsic validation. And I'm really proud of that we are doing us for, unapologetically for what we want to be and who we are. And we're also really improving, and we can be really, really proud of it and also really want it to be so much better. And I love that. What I'm really excited for coming this next year is these are going to be some leaks. I don't want to say too much, but
this won't be coming out probably till at least February.
Okay, that's good to know. So we're recording in December, but okay, in February. Yeah. Well, it's still, but we are upping the ante on getting cooler, bigger, more deep cut DJs that are going to give better. I don't know about better, but a wider variety of experiences that are going to be very, 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 very cool. We are also working on, I don't want to use words that are going to bloat this too much. I want to undersell, over deliver a little bit here, but more collabs with other event groups and just not just building our culture and what Lost and Found is, but going laterally and building the culture of underground in Utah Valley. and we're going to be releasing merch. That's our goal with our merch, is to play with skirting the lines between a brand merch and also a streetwear company. So even if you don't know what Lost and Found is, I want you to look at our shirts and be like, that's awesome. I want to own that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So stuff like that. So those are the kind of things. We're growing a lot,
ya.
and there's a lot of things happening. So we're stoked for it.
Dude, I feel like you could apply that angle of the brand streetwear throughout the whole brand.
There it is.
And how you live
Well,
and
yeah.
present yourself.
It's a lot.
And communicate your message and facilitate this environment.
Yeah.
And
Trust me.
that much more of a buy-in.
We could do a whole episode on how Lost and Found is creatively fulfilling to all of us, and how it's driving each of us. There's 4 of us that own Lost and Found. John and I are the co-founders, but Jackie and Ian, I definitely got to get their names in here.
Okay,
they are.
dope. Thank you.
They are not just. They're not just helping us. They are doing a major part of running the show right now. Jackie is our main graphic designer, and she's running the social media a lot.
Awesome.
She got our Twitter running, which is a little bit funny, but
any hot takes on Twitter?
There's going to be some. So
I love
keep
a
your
good
eyes
hot take.
peeled.
A little spicy.
Yeah, some good stuff though, man. Like things are happening, things are kicking. I'm very, very, very excited, and I'm excited to be building my brand personally, so I can do events and things, because if I'm a steady, healthy, consistent DJ, not only is my name going to be out there, but then I can take I can take those hours that I'm no longer working and doing things and having to worry about money because I'm DJing, and I can put that back to Lost and Found. So yeah, lots of good stuff happening.
This is last point, and then we got to wrap up. And you actually did a very great segue into the personal DJing. Obviously, we've spent some time talking about this just in our, more recent time of chatting more frequently. Chris, going through that transition phase of making DJing your main source of income and full-time job, if you will.
Yeah.
What do you foresee being like the biggest challenge in continuing to make that a reality in the near future, like right now as you're continuing to work towards that? Because there's so many artists out there. There's so many artists and DJs out there that are wanting to be in the similar position where they get to be in the creative field and do what they love for a full-time job. Yeah. As you're working on that for yourself, what are you finding, or do you foresee being the biggest challenge as you continue 100%. To make that transition?
Yeah, I think I am the answer. I'm the problem. Right? I'm the biggest hurdle. It's been said, and I'm gonna not only butcher this quote, but I'm going to fail to remember who said it. But it's been said that the difference between $1 million business and $1 trillion business is a belief, and that belief is what I want. I didn't even know. I mean, I knew it as an idea. I knew as some cerebral, there's DJs being full-time DJs and only working 3 days a month, and that's how they make all their money. I knew that as some cerebral idea, but I didn't know that could be my reality, and I didn't even want to think about it. I didn't want to consider it, let alone believe it, right? And going from that just a few months ago, realizing the business that I could create for myself and for my family and for the financial stability and lifestyle that I can provide, not for only for myself, because my wife is also a creative, and the things that I can provide for that, as well as Lost and Found, and it's been very, very eye-opening. That's thanks to you, by the way, in a really, really big way. As we've built a relationship and as we've had conversations and stuff, I've been able to say okay, I'm going to actually set some goals, not just have some ideas that sound cool, but write things down.
It would be nice.
Yeah, it sounds nice. No, it's I'm going to make this happen, and I'm going to work hard, and I'm always striving. I'm definitely still a human, but I'm always striving to be able to change those beliefs and have a flexible paradigm so that I can take that next step for greater success.
Is there a small we talked about signs, if you will, in our conversation. Is there something small that you're implementing to create a little bit more of that structure, or be more consistent with setting these concrete goals, Chris?
Something you said, signs. mean, there is a lot more structure.
A strategy you've implemented to
meditation. Yeah.
I love that.
Something that has guided me previous, and I've recently used it as a means to center. I mean, that's what it is. It's presence. And I think that, I'm a person that gets really excited about future things, about ideas. Lost and Found knows this very well. We have our meetings, and I'm like, oh my gosh, wouldn't this be so cool if we could do this in a year? Lost and Found's gonna be so sick in a year. They're like, okay, that's awesome, but in order for that to happen, what's right now, right?
There's a yin and a yang. I hear you.
And I sit on that side of like, oh, I'm so excited, and this is great. The energy's great. I need it. It's part of who I am, but I am weak when it comes to what am I going to do right now to make that future a reality. And oftentimes I'm filled with anxiety because when, it becomes overwhelming to see the future possibility and the potential, right? Potential, but also what it takes right now. Sometimes the juxtaposition there becomes overwhelming. And in order to, balance that, I have to be present. And in order to be present, I choose to meditate.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. That kind of wrapped it up, but yeah.
That's excellent. One more time, Lost and Found's handle.
Yeah, lost.found.official.
And we'll have that in the description and all that good stuff. And then Fora.
Yeah, I'm d.j.fora. DJ Fora on Instagram. That will likely be changing to Fora soon. But
okay.
As I become more of anyways, yeah.
Yeah, no, when you said Fora earlier, I hear you because I'm no longer DJ. I hear you. There's
a lot of things. Yeah. It may be Fora.mp4 or something like that.
Shit.
Some modern cool thing that some cloud.
The cloud just went up another 4 points, baby.
Cloud's an interesting one, man. We have next episode. Tune in next time when we talk only about cloud. I'll wear a second chain.
Yeah, I won't be facilitating the conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, we went behind the energy with the one and only Fora. Bro, thank you. Your passion is very much present. You can feel it. I can see it in how you talk. And I mean it when I say, the word creative comes to mind. When I was prepping my notes and stuff, I'm like, dude, these guys are just a creative duo. So
thank you. That's a huge compliment.
I am grateful to have you guys on. I wish we could do it 4 times longer, but I need some food in my system, and 100%. We got to stick to the intentional structure that we have that we basically spent quite amount of time talking about. So, ladies and gentlemen, party people, listeners, and that's just about it. Thank you for joining for another episode of Behind the Energy Podcast. One time shouts out my boy Nick Nord. Until next week, hasta la vista, namaste, peace out. That is a wrap. Thank you for listening and going behind the energy with me. If you loved it, thumbs up it. You can follow me on social media at Parker Andriese and check us all out at bringingtheenergy.com. As for now, we are signing off, and I'll catch you next week for another episode. Peace.